The gunshots echoed through the canyon walls like thunder as Sophia James urged her horse forward, the animal's hooves pounding against the dusty earth beneath them. Her heart hammered in her chest, matching the rhythm of her mount's desperate gallop. 5 riders pursued her, their shadows stretching long in the late afternoon sun of 1873. Las Vegas, Nevada was still miles away, and Sophia knew she wouldn't make it before nightfall if she made it at all. "Get the girl," shouted the lead outlaw, his voice carrying on the wind. "Don't let her get away." Sophia's hands tightened on the reins as she glanced back over her shoulder. The outlaws were gaining ground, their horses fresher than her exhausted mare. Her blonde hair had come loose from its pins, whipping wildly around her face as tears stung her eyes. 3 days on the run had left her with little sleep and even less hope. The canyon narrowed ahead, red walls rising on either side like the gates of hell itself. If she could navigate the twisting passages, perhaps she could lose them. It was her only chance. Sophia steered her mount toward the entrance, praying that the mare had enough strength left for one final push. The outlaws fired again, a bullet whizzing past her ear. Sophia ducked low against her horse's neck, the animal snorting with fear as they plunged into the shadowy confines of the canyon. The temperature dropped immediately, the sun's reach limited by the towering rock walls. "You can't escape, girl," called another outlaw, his laughter cruel and confident. Sophia's breath came in gasps as she urged her horse around a sharp bend. The mare's sides heaved with exertion, foam flecking her dark coat. "Just a little further," Sophia whispered, though she had no idea where safety might lie. The canyon path split ahead. Sophia chose the narrower route, hoping the pursuers might have trouble following. Her horse stumbled slightly, regaining its footing on the loose stones. The sounds of pursuit grew louder hoofbeats, shouting, the metallic click of guns being readied. She rounded another bend and her heart leaped to her throat. The path ended abruptly in a small box canyon, walls too steep to climb, no way forward. She was trapped. Sophia pulled her horse to a halt, the animal's sides heaving. She slid from the saddle, her legs nearly buckling beneath her as they touched solid ground. Her hand moved to the small revolver tucked in her belt, knowing its 6 bullets would do little against 5 armed men. The outlaws' approach slowed as they realized they had her cornered. They entered the small clearing in a line, spreading out to block any potential escape. Their leader, a man with a scar cutting through his left eyebrow, smiled cruelly. "End of the line, Miss James," he said, tipping his hat mockingly. "You've led us on quite a chase, but it's over now." "What do you want from me?" Sophia demanded, her voice steadier than she felt. "I have nothing of value." "That's where you're wrong," said another man, his teeth yellow beneath his mustache. "Your father's land is plenty valuable, and once we have you, he'll sign it over quick enough." "My father will never give in to your demands," Sophia replied, though fear churned in her stomach. Her father would indeed give them anything to keep her safe. The land grant that had been in their family for generations, their ranch, their livelihood, all would be sacrificed for her return. "We'll see about that," the leader said, dismounting slowly. "Take her, boys." Sophia drew her revolver with trembling hands. "Stay back," the outlaws laughed, unimpressed by her small weapon. They began to close in, confident in their victory. A shot rang out, but not from Sophia's gun. A chunk of rock exploded from the canyon wall just above the lead outlaw's head. The men froze, heads whipping around to locate the source of the gunfire. "The lady said stay back," came a deep voice from the canyon entrance. Sophia turned to see a tall figure silhouetted against the canyon opening. A man sat atop a powerful black stallion, rifle raised to his shoulder. His face was partially obscured by the shadow of his hat brim, but his posture radiated confidence. "Who the hell are you?" demanded the outlaw leader, hand hovering near his holster. The stranger nudged his horse forward a few steps, enough for Sophia to see his face. He was younger than she expected, perhaps 25, with intense blue eyes and a strong jawline shadowed with several days' growth of beard. His clothes were trail-worn but well-kept, a dark shirt, leather vest, and denim pants tucked into worn boots. A star-shaped badge gleamed on his chest. "Zane Kendrick," he answered simply. "And you fellas are trespassing on my shortcut home." "This ain't your concern, lawman," spat one of the outlaws. "We've got business with the girl." Zane's gaze flickered briefly to Sophia, then back to the outlaws. "Way I see it, 5 men chasing one woman through a canyon is my concern." He urged his horse forward, placing himself between Sophia and the outlaws. "You want her, you'll have to go through me." The leader's face contorted with rage. "That can be arranged." For a tense moment, no one moved. Sophia held her breath, the small revolver still clutched in her hand. Zane remained motionless atop his horse, his rifle steady. "Think carefully," Zane said, his voice calm. "I count 5 of you. I've got 16 shots between my rifle and revolvers. Even if you're fast, some of you won't be riding out of this canyon." The outlaws exchanged uneasy glances. The leader's eyes narrowed as he assessed the situation. "This isn't over," he finally said, mounting his horse again. "The girl's coming with us one way or another." "Not today," Zane replied evenly. The leader spat on the ground. "Boys, we're leaving, for now." He fixed his gaze on Sophia. "We'll be seeing you real soon, Miss James." The outlaws backed their horses away slowly, keeping their eyes on Zane's rifle until they disappeared around the bend of the canyon. Even after the sound of their horses faded, Zane kept his weapon raised for several long moments. Finally, he lowered the rifle and turned to Sophia. "Are you hurt, miss?" Sophia's legs finally gave out and she sank to her knees in the dirt, the revolver falling from her grasp. "No," she managed to say, though her voice cracked. "Not hurt, just tired." Zane dismounted in one fluid motion, securing his rifle in its saddle holster before approaching her. He crouched beside her, keeping a respectful distance. Up close, his eyes were even more striking the blue of a desert sky at midday. "Those men," he said, "they'll be back. We need to get you somewhere safe." He reached out a hand, hesitating until she nodded her permission before gently helping her to her feet. "My horse," Sophia said, glancing at her exhausted mare. "She can't go much further." Zane assessed the animal with a practiced eye. "We'll lead her." "You can ride with me. My camp isn't far." Sophia hesitated, years of propriety warring with her current desperation. Riding double with a strange man was highly improper, but she had little choice. "All right," she agreed. "Thank you, Mr. Kendrick." "Zane," he corrected, retrieving her fallen revolver and offering it to her. "Just Zane." She took the gun with a nod. "Sophia James." "I know," he said, surprising her. When she raised an eyebrow, he explained, "Those men called you Miss James. I put it together." He gestured toward his horse. "Let's get moving before they decide to test their luck." He helped her mount the black stallion before swinging up behind her. The proximity made her cheeks flush despite her exhaustion. He reached around her to take the reins, careful to maintain as much distance as their shared saddle allowed. "I've got a camp set up about 2 miles from here," he explained as they started forward, leading her tired mare behind them. "It's secluded. We should be safe there for the night." Sophia nodded, suddenly too weary to speak. The adrenaline that had kept her going for days was fading, leaving her drained and lightheaded. The steady rhythm of the horse beneath her and the solid presence of the man behind her lulled her toward unconsciousness. "Stay with me, Miss James," Zane said, his voice close to her ear. "Just a little longer." She fought to keep her eyes open as they navigated the canyon paths. The sun was setting, painting the rock walls in brilliant oranges and reds before fading to purple. Stars began to appear overhead, brilliant pinpricks of light in the clear desert sky. "Almost there," Zane assured her as they emerged from the canyon into a small, sheltered valley. A small campfire glowed in the distance, barely visible among the scattered juniper trees. As they approached, Sophia could make out a simple camp bedroll beside the fire, a coffee pot on the coals, saddlebags and supplies neatly arranged. Zane brought the horse to a halt and dismounted quickly, turning to help her down. Her legs betrayed her again as she slid from the saddle, and she would have fallen if not for his strong hands catching her waist. "I've got you," he said softly, steadying her. "I'm sorry," she murmured, embarrassed by her weakness. "I haven't slept in days. No need to apologize." He guided her to a fallen log near the fire. "Sit, rest. I'll tend to the horses." Sophia sank onto the log, the warmth of the fire seeping into her chilled bones. She watched as Zane efficiently unsaddled both horses, rubbing them down and giving them water and grain. His movements were sure and practiced, a man comfortable with the life he led. When he returned to the fire, he offered her a tin cup filled with water. "Drink this first, then I'll get you some coffee." She took the cup gratefully, the cool water soothing her parched throat. "Thank you for helping me," she said when she'd finished. "Those men, they want my father's land." Zane nodded, pouring coffee into 2 cups. "Your father would be Henry James, owns the big spread northeast of Las Vegas." "Yes," Sophia confirmed, accepting the coffee he offered. "How did you know?" "I'm the deputy sheriff in Las Vegas," he explained, sitting on a nearby rock. "I know most of the ranchers in the territory." He sipped his coffee, studying her over the rim of his cup. "Those men work for Clayton Thornton." Sophia's eyes widened. "You know about Thornton?" "I know he's been buying up land all around the territory, not always through honest means." Zane's expression hardened. "Been trying to build a case against him for months, but he's careful, never gets his hands dirty directly." "He offered to buy our ranch," Sophia said, staring into her coffee. "When my father refused, strange things started happening, cattle going missing, fences cut. Then 3 days ago, those men came to our house." Her voice trembled slightly. "They threatened my father, said they'd take me if he didn't sign over the deed. My father told me to run while he held them off. I've been trying to reach Las Vegas to find the sheriff." Zane's jaw tightened. "Sheriff Michaels is away in Carson City for a trial, won't be back for another week." He set his cup down. "But I'm here, and I'll help you." Sophia's eyes welled with tears, the full weight of her situation crashing down on her. "I don't know if my father is even alive," she whispered. "I've been so afraid." Without thinking, she reached for Zane's hand, needing something to anchor her. His fingers closed around hers, warm and reassuring. "We'll ride for your ranch at first light," he promised. "But you need to rest now. You're safe here." Sophia nodded, exhaustion overwhelming her. "I don't think I can stay awake another minute." Zane stood, releasing her hand gently. "Take my bedroll. I'll keep watch." "I can't take your bed," she protested weakly. "You can and you will," he insisted with a small smile. "Deputy's orders." Too tired to argue further, Sophia allowed him to guide her to the bedroll. As soon as her head touched the folded blanket that served as a pillow, sleep began to claim her. The last thing she remembered was Zane draping an extra blanket over her, and the comforting sound of him checking the loading of his revolver as he prepared to stand guard through the night. When Sophia woke, the eastern sky was just beginning to lighten, the stars fading as dawn approached. For a moment she was disoriented, unsure where she was. Then the events of the previous day came rushing back, and she sat up quickly, her heart pounding. Zane was crouched by a fresh fire, coffee already brewing. He glanced up as she stirred. "Morning," he greeted. "Sleep well?" Sophia nodded, running a hand through her tangled hair. "Better than I expected," she admitted. "Did you sleep at all?" "I got enough," he replied, though the shadows under his eyes suggested otherwise. He poured coffee into a tin cup and brought it to her. "Drink this. We'll eat something quick and then head out." "Thank you." She accepted the cup, their fingers brushing briefly. The small contact sent an unexpected warmth through her that had nothing to do with the hot beverage. They ate a simple breakfast of hardtack and jerky, neither speaking much. Zane moved with efficient purpose, breaking down the camp while Sophia tried to make herself presentable. She washed her face with a little water from Zane's canteen and pinned her hair back as neatly as she could manage without a mirror. "Your mare looks better this morning," Zane commented as they prepared to leave. "She should be able to carry you, but we'll take it slow." Sophia approached her horse, stroking the animal's neck gratefully. "She's a good girl, carried me farther than I had any right to expect." Zane helped her mount, then swung up onto his own stallion. "Your ranch is about half a day's ride from here," he said. "If we push, we can be there by midday." As they rode, the landscape gradually changed from the Red Canyon country to rolling hills dotted with juniper and piñon pine. Sophia found herself watching Zane as they traveled, studying the strong line of his shoulders and the way he sat easily in the saddle, at home in this harsh land. "How long have you been a deputy?" she asked, breaking the companionable silence that had fallen between them. 2 years, he answered. "Before that, I rode with a cattle outfit up in Wyoming territory." "What made you pin on the badge?" A shadow crossed his face. "Saw too many good people hurt by men who thought they were above the law." He glanced at her. Figured maybe I could do something about that. Sophia nodded, understanding. It suits you. A hint of a smile touched his lips. Most days I think so too. As the sun climbed higher, the heat intensified. They stopped briefly at a small stream to water the horses and refill their canteens. Sophia splashed cool water on her face, grateful for the brief respite. We're making good time, Zane said, scanning the horizon. Another few hours and we should see your ranch. I'm worried about what we might find, Sophia admitted, voicing the fear that had been growing as they drew nearer to home. Zane moved to stand beside her, his presence reassuring. Whatever we find, we'll face it together. I promise you that. The sincerity in his voice touched something deep within her. In the short time she'd known him, Zane Kendrick had shown himself to be a man of honor, the kind of man her father had always respected. The kind of man who was becoming increasingly rare in this changing West. They continued their journey, and as the sun reached its zenith, they crested a hill that overlooked the James ranch. Sophia's heart leaped at the sight of the familiar buildings nestled in the valley below the main house, the barn, the bunkhouse, all seemingly intact. It looks normal, she said, a note of surprise in her voice. Zane studied the scene through narrowed eyes. Smoke from the chimney, someone's there. My father, hope swelled in Sophia's chest. Maybe, Zane's expression remained cautious. But we approach carefully, could be Thornton's men. They descended the hill slowly, Zane instructing Sophia to stay slightly behind him. As they neared the house, the front door opened and a figure stepped onto the porch. Sophia's breath caught. Papa, she cried, recognizing her father's tall frame. Henry James raised a hand, shading his eyes against the sun. Sophia, he called, his voice cracking with emotion, forgetting caution. Sophia urged her mare forward, galloping the remaining distance to the house. She dismounted before the horse had fully stopped, nearly falling in her haste to reach her father. He met her halfway, engulfing her in a fierce embrace. Thank God, he murmured into her hair. I feared the worst. I thought they might have killed you, Sophia said, tears streaming down her face. Henry held her at arm's length, examining her face. Are you hurt? Did they harm you? No, I'm fine. I escaped and then. She turned to where Zane was approaching more cautiously, his eyes scanning the property for any signs of danger. Deputy Kendrick saved me. The outlaws had me cornered in a canyon. Henry looked up as Zane dismounted. Recognition dawned on his weathered face. Kendrick, he said with a nod. I remember you from town. Zane touched the brim of his hat respectfully. Mr. James. You have my eternal gratitude for protecting my daughter, Henry said, his arm still around Sophia's shoulders. Please come inside. Both of you look like you could use a meal and rest. As they moved toward the house, Zane asked, What happened here, Mr. James? After Sophia fled, Henry's expression darkened. Thornton's men left, chasing after Sophia. They said they'd be back with her and I'd better have the deed ready to sign. His hand tightened protectively around his daughter. I gathered some of the hands prepared for a fight, but they haven't returned yet. They will, Zane said grimly. I encountered them yesterday. They're not the type to give up easily. No, Henry agreed as they entered the house. They're not. The interior of the James home was modest but comfortable, with solid furniture and homey touches that spoke of the woman who had once been its heart. A photograph on the mantel showed a younger Henry with a beautiful woman who shared Sophia's eyes and smile, her mother, who had passed away 5 years earlier. The ranch cook, an elderly Mexican woman named Maria, exclaimed with joy at Sophia's return and immediately set about preparing a substantial meal. While they waited, Henry and Zane discussed the situation, their voices low and serious. Thornton's been causing trouble all over the territory, Zane explained. He wants to control the water rights for the entire region. Your land has the best access to the river. I know, Henry said, running a hand through his graying hair. He offered to buy me out 3 times. Each offer higher than the last. When I refused, the trouble started. We need evidence to connect him to these attacks, Zane said. Without it, we can't touch him. Sophia, who had been washing up in her room, rejoined them in time to hear the last part of their conversation. She had changed into a clean dress, her hair freshly brushed and pinned. What about the men who chased me? She asked. Surely they could testify against Thornton. Zane's eyes followed her as she entered the room, a flicker of something warm in his gaze before he returned to the matter at hand. They'd have to be willing to turn on him. Men like that are usually more afraid of their boss than the law. Then we capture them, Henry suggested. Force them to talk. Not as simple as that, Zane replied. We need to be careful. Thornton has friends in high places. Their discussion was interrupted by Maria announcing that dinner was ready. They moved to the dining room, where a hearty meal of beef stew, freshly baked bread, and apple pie awaited them. Sophia realized how hungry she was, having subsisted on trail rations for days. As they ate, the conversation turned to lighter topics. Zane spoke of his childhood in Colorado, his decision to become a lawman. Sophia found herself watching him as he talked, drawn to the quiet strength he exuded. Several times, she caught him looking at her with an expression that made her heart beat faster. After dinner, Henry insisted that Zane stay the night. "It'll be dark soon," he pointed out, "and I'd feel better having another gun here if Thornton's men decide to pay us a visit." Zane accepted with a nod. "I should send word to Las Vegas, let them know where I am and what's happening. I'll have one of the hands ride in with your message," Henry offered. As the evening wore on, Sophia found herself sitting on the porch with Zane, watching as twilight painted the landscape in purples and blues. The first stars were appearing overhead, brilliant against the darkening sky. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything." Zane glanced at her, his face half illuminated by the lamplight spilling from the window. "I was just doing my job." "No," Sophia shook her head. "It was more than that. You risked your life for a stranger. That's rare." He was quiet for a moment, his eyes on the distant horizon. "Maybe you weren't quite a stranger," he finally said. "I've seen you in town a few times, at church, the general store." A faint smile touched his lips. "Hard not to notice you." Sophia felt a blush rise to her cheeks. "I don't remember seeing you." "I noticed that too," he said with a soft laugh. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them, a recognition, a possibility. Sophia looked away first, her heart fluttering strangely in her chest. "We should go inside," she said, rising from her chair. "It's getting late." Zane stood as well, towering beside her in the gathering darkness. "Yes," he agreed, though he made no move toward the door. Instead, his gaze remained fixed on her face, intense and searching. For a breathless moment, Sophia thought he might step closer, might even kiss her. But then the sound of hoofbeats in the distance broke the spell. Both of them turned toward the sound, instantly alert. "Get inside," Zane said, his hand moving to his holster. "Tell your father." Sophia hurried into the house as Zane moved to the edge of the porch, peering into the darkness. Henry emerged from his study at her urgent call, rifle already in hand. "Riders coming," she told him. "At least several from the sound of it." Henry's expression hardened. "Get the hands," he instructed one of the ranch workers who had appeared at the commotion. "And stay inside, Sophia." "Papa, promise me," he insisted. "I can't fight if I'm worried about you." Reluctantly, Sophia nodded, though she had no intention of hiding while others risked their lives. She watched as her father joined Zane on the porch, both men scanning the approaching riders. "5 of them," Zane reported. "Same ones from yesterday, I'd wager." "We have 8 men counting us," Henry replied. "Good odds." The ranch hands assembled quickly, taking up defensive positions around the house and barn. Sophia moved to the window, a small revolver clutched in her hand, her mother's gun, which she had retrieved from her room. Through the glass, she could see the riders approaching, their forms dark against the night sky. They halted about 50 yards from the house. The leader's voice carried clearly on the still night air. "James, send out your daughter and we'll leave peacefully. Refuse and we burn your ranch to the ground." "You're trespassing on private property," Henry called back. "Leave now or face the consequences." Laughter echoed from the group of riders. "You're outnumbered, old man." "Count again," Zane's voice rang out. "There's a deputy sheriff here along with 8 armed men. You're the ones outnumbered." A tense silence followed. Sophia could almost feel the outlaws reassessing their situation. Finally, the leader spoke again. "This isn't over, James. Thornton wants your land and he'll get it, one way or another." "There it is," Zane said, his voice carrying a note of triumph. "Confirmation that Thornton sent you, that's enough for an arrest warrant." Cursing erupted from the outlaws, realizing their mistake. Without warning, one of them fired, the bullet splintering wood near Henry's head. Chaos erupted as both sides exchanged gunfire. Sophia pressed herself against the wall beside the window, heart pounding. The shooting lasted only minutes before she heard horses galloping away, followed by Zane's voice ordering the ranch hands not to pursue too far. When silence fell again, she rushed outside to find her father and Zane both unharmed, though one of the ranch hands was nursing a bullet grazed to his arm. "They're gone," Zane said as she approached. "For now, but they'll be back with more men." "You got what you needed, though," Sophia pointed out. "They admitted Thornton sent them," Zane nodded. "It's a start, but we need more. We need one of them to testify to provide details of Thornton's instructions." "How do we manage that?" Henry asked, checking his rifle. "We set a trap," Zane said, his eyes meeting Sophia's. "And I think I know how." The plan they devised was dangerous but simple. Word would be spread that Henry James had decided to travel to Carson City to speak with the territorial governor about the threats to his property. Sophia would remain at the ranch with only minimal protection and irresistible target for Thornton's men. "I don't like using Sophia as bait," Henry argued when Zane outlined the plan. "Neither do I," Zane admitted, his expression troubled. "But we need to draw them in, make them overconfident. Meanwhile, you and your men will be hidden nearby, ready to surprise them." "And where will you be?" Sophia asked. "Right beside you," Zane answered without hesitation. "I won't let them get near you." The intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. She knew in that moment that he would indeed protect her with his life if necessary. "I'll do it," she said firmly, meeting her father's worried gaze. "This has to end, Papa. We can't live under threat forever." Henry studied his daughter's face, pride mingling with concern in his eyes. "You're too much like your mother," he finally said with a sigh. "Just as stubborn, just as brave." He turned to Zane. "If anything happens to her, it won't," Zane promised. "You have my word." The next morning, Henry made a show of departing for Carson City, taking most of the ranch hands with him. In reality, they circled back through the hills to approach the ranch from the rear, establishing hidden positions from which they could observe and intervene. Sophia and Zane remained at the house, maintaining the appearance of normal activities. They spent the day in a state of heightened awareness, expecting Thornton's men at any moment. As the hours passed, tension built between them not just from the danger, but from the growing awareness of their feelings for each other. "Tell me about your life before all this," Zane said as they sat on the porch in the late afternoon, keeping watch on the surrounding countryside. Sophia considered the question. "It was quiet, peaceful. After my mother died, I took over running the household, helping my father with the ranch business." She smiled faintly. "I used to dream of adventure, of seeing more of the world than just Nevada territory, but my father needed me here." "And now, what do you dream of now?" She looked at him, studying the strong lines of his profile. "Safety," she answered honestly. "Peace again, but also," she hesitated, "also something more than the life I had before, someone to share it with." Zane's eyes met hers, something unspoken passing between them. He reached out slowly, his fingers brushing a strand of hair from her face. Sophia, the sound of approaching riders cut off his words. They both tensed, immediately alert. Zane stood, moving to position himself protectively in front of Sophia. "Get inside," he instructed quietly. "Remember the plan." Sophia nodded, retreating into the house as Zane remained on the porch, one hand resting casually near his holster. Through the window, she watched as 7 riders approached the 5 from before plus 2 additional men. They spread out as they neared the house, clearly planning to surround it. The leader reined in his horse about 20 yards away. "Deputy Kendrick," he called, a sneer in his voice. "Still playing hero, I see. Just upholding the law," Zane replied evenly. "Something you boys seem to have trouble with." "We're just here for the girl," the outlaw said. "James should have signed over his land when he had the chance. Now Thornton's patience is gone." "Sophia James is under my protection," Zane stated firmly, "and Thornton will be facing charges for sending you to harass her family." The leader laughed. "Brave talk for a man facing 7 guns alone." "Who says I'm alone?" Zane's hand remained steady near his weapon. A moment of uncertainty crossed the outlaw's face, his eyes scanning the seemingly deserted ranch yard. "Nice try, lawman. We know James left for Carson City this morning. It's just you and the girl." "Last chance to ride away," Zane warned. "Next time I speak, it'll be with this." He patted his revolver. The outlaws exchanged glances, then the leader nodded. In a flash, all 7 men drew their weapons. But before they could fire, shots rang out from the barn, the bunkhouse, and several other positions around the property. 2 of the outlaws fell from their saddles immediately, while the others scrambled for cover. Zane dove for protection behind a water trough as bullets splintered the porch where he had been standing. Inside, Sophia crouched below the window, her mother's revolver clutched in her hands. The gunfight was fierce but brief. Caught in crossfire and outnumbered, the outlaws soon realized their predicament. 3 were wounded, 1 fatally. The leader and 2 others threw down their weapons in surrender. As the shooting stopped, Henry and the ranch hands emerged from their hiding places, weapons trained on the surviving outlaws. Zane approached the leader, who knelt in the dirt, hands raised. "You're under arrest," Zane said, pulling handcuffs from his belt. "For attempted kidnapping, assault, and conspiracy, and you're going to tell us exactly what Thornton ordered you to do." "I ain't saying nothing," the outlaw spat. "You will," Zane replied calmly, "unless you want to hang alone while Thornton walks free." Fear flickered in the man's eyes at the mention of hanging. "Thornton has powerful friends. So do I," Zane countered. "The governor will be very interested in what you have to say." As the ranch hands secured the prisoners, Sophia emerged from the house, rushing to her father's side. "It worked," she said, relief evident in her voice. "It's over." Henry embraced his daughter tightly. "Not quite over, but we've made progress." Zane approached them, holstering his weapon. His eyes sought Sophia's, concern evident in his gaze. "Are you all right?" She nodded, unexpectedly moved by his worry. "I'm fine. Thanks to you." "Thanks to all of us," he corrected with a small smile. "You showed remarkable courage, Miss James." The way he said her name with respect and something more made warmth spread through her chest. "As did you, Deputy Kendrick." The next few days passed in a flurry of activity. Zane took the prisoners to Las Vegas, where they were held in the jail. True to Zane's prediction, the leader of the outlaws, facing a hanging, quickly agreed to testify against Thornton in exchange for leniency. When Sheriff Michaels returned from Carson City, he and Zane rode to Thornton's estate with a warrant for his arrest. The wealthy landowner's influence couldn't protect him from the evidence mounting against him, especially when one of his own men was willing to detail his crimes before a judge. 2 weeks after the showdown at the James Ranch, Sophia drove the buckboard into Las Vegas to purchase supplies. The town was abuzz with news of Thornton's arrest and the dismantling of his operation. As she exited the general store, arms full of packages, she nearly collided with Zane, who was walking down the boardwalk. "Miss James," he said, quickly steadying her with a hand on her elbow. "Let me help you with those." "Thank you, Deputy," she replied, allowing him to take some of the parcels. "I heard the news about Thornton. Congratulations on your success." "Our success," he corrected, walking beside her toward the buckboard. "Without your bravery, we might never have caught him." They reached the wagon, and Zane placed the packages in the back. Instead of stepping away, he remained standing close to her, his expression suddenly serious. "I've been meaning to ride out to your ranch," he said, "to check on you and your father." "We're doing well," Sophia assured him. "The ranch is peaceful again, thanks to you." Zane's eyes held hers. "I missed seeing you," he admitted quietly. "These past 2 weeks I found myself thinking about you, often." Sophia's heart quickened at his words. "I thought of you too," she confessed, her cheeks warming. A smile spread across his face, transforming his serious features. "I was wondering if you might allow me to call on you properly. This Sunday, perhaps." "I would like that very much," Sophia replied, her own smile matching his. "Good," he said, relief evident in his voice. "That's good." He helped her up onto the buckboard seat, his hands lingering slightly longer than necessary at her waist. As she gathered the reins, he reached up to touch her hand gently. "Sunday, then," he confirmed. "Sunday?" she echoed, reluctant to leave but knowing she must return to the ranch. As she drove away, Sophia glanced back to see Zane still standing in the street, watching her go. A feeling of anticipation settled in her chest, a sense that something important was beginning. True to his word, Zane appeared at the James Ranch that Sunday, riding his black stallion and dressed in his best clothes. He had even trimmed his beard and polished his boots. Henry James greeted him warmly, having developed a genuine respect for the young deputy during their ordeal. After dinner, Henry tactfully retired to his study, leaving Sophia and Zane to enjoy the evening on the porch. The summer air was warm, carrying the scent of sage and desert flowers. Stars appeared one by one in the darkening sky as they talked, sharing stories of their lives, discovering the many ways in which they were compatible despite their different backgrounds. "I never properly thanked you," Sophia said during a lull in the conversation. "For saving my life that day in the canyon," Zane shook his head. "No thanks needed, though I must admit I'm grateful for whatever fate put me on that trail at that moment." His eyes held hers in the lamplight. "Meeting you has changed things for me, Sophia." The use of her given name sent a shiver through her. "How so?" she asked softly. "I've always been focused on my duty, on the job. Nothing else seemed important." His voice grew quieter. "But now I find myself thinking about more than just being a lawman. I think about a future, a home. Things I never considered before." Sophia's heart raced at his words, at the implication behind them. "And what do you see in this future of yours?" Zane reached for her hand, his fingers warm as they closed around hers. "You," he said simply, "if you'd be part of it." Sophia turned her hand in his, their fingers intertwining naturally. "I think I would like that," she whispered. "Very much." He moved closer, his free hand gently touching her cheek. Sophia's eyes fluttered closed as his lips met hers in a tender kiss, her first. It was brief but perfect, a promise of many more to come. When they parted, Zane's eyes were filled with an emotion that mirrored what she felt in her own heart. Not just attraction or affection, but the beginning of something deeper, something lasting. "I should go," he said reluctantly. "It's getting late." Sophia nodded, though she wished he could stay longer. "Will you come again?" "Try to keep me away," he replied with a smile that made her pulse quicken. In the months that followed, Zane became a regular visitor at the James Ranch. He continued his duties as deputy, but found every opportunity to spend time with Sophia. Their courtship flourished, deepening from initial attraction into genuine love. By Christmas, Zane had purchased a small piece of land adjacent to the James property, with Henry's blessing and assistance. On Christmas Eve, as they stood together beneath the stars, he asked Sophia to be his wife. Her joyful acceptance was all he had hoped for. They were married in the spring of 1874 in the small church in Las Vegas. The entire town turned out for the celebration, as both the James family and Deputy Kendrick were now local heroes for their part in bringing down Clayton Thornton's criminal enterprise. After the wedding, Zane resigned his position as deputy to focus on building their home and working alongside Henry on the ranch. He discovered that he had a natural talent for ranching, and Henry, who had no sons, was delighted to have someone to whom he could pass on his knowledge and eventually his legacy. Sophia bloomed in her role as wife, maintaining the household while also participating in the business aspects of the ranch. She and Zane worked as partners in all things, their different strengths complementing each other perfectly. In the summer of 1875, their first child was born, a son they named William Henry Kendrick, after both of their fathers. As Sophia watched Zane hold their infant son, tears of joy in his eyes, she reflected on the strange path that had brought them together. What had begun as a terrifying chase through a canyon had led to the greatest happiness she had ever known. "What are you thinking about?" Zane asked, noticing her thoughtful expression as he gently rocked their sleeping son. "About the day we met," she replied with a smile. "About 5 outlaws and a brave cowboy who said they'd have to go through him." Zane's eyes softened with memory. "Best day of my life," he said simply. "Though this one might surpass it." He looked down at their child with wonder. "Do you ever miss wearing the badge?" Sophia asked, curious. Zane considered the question seriously. "Sometimes I miss the purpose it gave me," he admitted. "The feeling of making a difference." His gaze returned to her face filled with love. "But what I've found with you, a home, a family, this life we're building together, that's a greater purpose than any badge could provide." He moved to sit beside her on the bed, their son cradled between them. "I thought I was saving you that day in the canyon," he said softly. "But in truth, you saved me, from a life of solitude, from never knowing what it means to truly belong somewhere, with someone." Sophia leaned forward to kiss him gently. "We saved each other," she whispered against his lips. As the years passed, the Kendrick family grew. A daughter, Elizabeth, joined them in 1877, followed by another son, James, in 1880. The ranch prospered under the combined efforts of Henry, Zane, and Sophia. They weathered the challenges that came: drought years, harsh winters, fluctuating cattle prices, with resilience and determination. Henry James lived to see all three of his grandchildren grow into their early teens, before passing peacefully in his sleep in 1890, secure in the knowledge that his life's work would continue through the family he loved. Las Vegas itself transformed gradually from a small desert settlement into a growing town, with the railroad's arrival bringing new opportunities and challenges. Through it all, the Kendrick Ranch remained a constant, adapting to changing times while maintaining the values upon which it had been built. Zane, though content with his life as a rancher and family man, never completely abandoned his commitment to justice. He served as a county commissioner for several terms, working to ensure that the law was applied fairly throughout the territory. His reputation for integrity made him a respected figure in the community, someone whose opinion was sought and valued. Sophia, too, found ways to contribute beyond their ranch. She helped establish the town's first proper school and library, convinced that education was vital for the future of the West. Her own children benefited from her beliefs, all three growing into thoughtful, capable young adults. In 1898, as Nevada prepared for the new century, Zane and Sophia celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary with a gathering that brought together friends and family from across the territory. Their oldest son, William, now managing much of the ranch operations himself, gave a toast that brought tears to many eyes. "To my parents, who taught us that courage isn't just about facing down outlaws, though they've done that too." Laughter rippled through the crowd. "It's about facing each day with honesty, with integrity, and with love. The story of how you met has become legend in these parts, but the story of how you've lived together, that's the real inspiration." Later that evening, as the celebration continued around them, Zane led Sophia away from the crowd, out to the porch where they had shared their first kiss so many years before. The desert night was cool, the stars as brilliant as they had been on that fateful day in 1873. "Happy anniversary, my love," he said softly, drawing her into his arms. Sophia leaned her head against his chest, listening to the steady heartbeat that had become the rhythm of her life. 25 years, she murmured. "It seems like yesterday and forever all at once." "The best 25 years any man could ask for," Zane replied, his voice rich with emotion. "And I look forward to 25 more if God grants us the time." Sophia looked up at him, at the face she had loved for half her life. The years had added lines around his eyes, streaks of silver to his dark hair, but the blue of his gaze was as intense as ever, still capable of making her heart skip a beat. "Do you remember what you said to those outlaws?" she asked. "When you found me in the canyon?" Zane smiled, the memory clear despite the passage of time. "You'll have to go through me," he quoted. "I meant it then and I mean it now. Nothing will harm you while I draw breath." "My protector," Sophia said fondly, touching his cheek. "My hero." "My heart," he countered, turning his face to kiss her palm. "My home." As they stood together beneath the vast Nevada sky, Sophia reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. From danger and fear had come safety and joy. From a chance encounter had grown a love that defined them both, that had shaped a family and influenced a community. The West was changing around them, the wild frontier gradually giving way to settlement and civilization. But some things remained constant: the land they loved, the family they had built, and the bond between them that had begun in a dusty canyon with 5 outlaws, a frightened woman, and a brave cowboy who had stood his ground. "I love you, Zane Kendrick," Sophia whispered, "today and always." "And I love you, Sophia Kendrick," he replied, bending to kiss her with the same tenderness he had shown that first time. "Through whatever canyon's life may lead us." Their lips met under the desert stars, sealing a promise made long ago and kept faithfully through the years, a promise of protection, partnership, and a love that would endure as long as the mountains stood and the rivers flowed across the land they called home. As the new century dawned, bringing automobiles, telephones, and other modern marvels to even remote corners of Nevada, the Kendrick family embraced the changes while holding fast to their traditions. Their ranch remained a beacon of stability in a rapidly evolving world, a place where old values and new ideas could coexist harmoniously. William married a schoolteacher from California, bringing fresh perspectives to the family business. Elizabeth, with her mother's determination and her father's sense of justice, became one of Nevada's first female attorneys, working tirelessly for women's suffrage and equal rights. James, the youngest, combined his grandfather's skill with cattle and his father's integrity to expand the ranch operations in sustainable ways. Through it all, Zane and Sophia remained the heart of the family, their enduring love a foundation upon which each generation built. They welcomed grandchildren with joy, passing on stories of the early days, including, of course, the tale of their dramatic first meeting. "Tell us again, Grandpa," the children would beg during family gatherings, "about the outlaws and the canyon." And Zane would smile, his eyes finding Sophia's across the room as he began. It was 1873, and 5 outlaws were chasing the most beautiful woman in Nevada territory through a canyon. The story never grew old, though the details sometimes shifted slightly with each telling. It had become part of the family mythology, a reminder that love could begin in the most unexpected circumstances. In 1923, as they celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary surrounded by children, grandchildren, and even a few great-grandchildren, Zane and Sophia stood once more on the porch of the home they had shared for half a century. Though both now in their 70s, their connection remained as strong as ever. 50 years, Zane mused, his hand holding Sophia's as they watched the sunset paint the desert in gold and crimson. "If someone had told me that day in the canyon that I was meeting the woman I'd spend 50 years loving, I'd have thought them mad. And yet, here we are," Sophia replied, squeezing his hand gently, "through good times and hard ones." "Mostly good," he said with a smile that still had the power to warm her heart. "Mostly good," she agreed. As twilight deepened into night, they remained together, 2 figures silhouetted against the light from the house behind them. The ranch around them slept peacefully, secure in the legacy they had built not just of land and cattle, but of love and principles, of courage and commitment. The West of their youth had vanished, transformed by time and progress. The days of outlaws and posses, of vast, untamed territories, had passed into history and legend. But the values that had guided them through that wilder time remained vital and necessary in the modern world. "Do you ever wonder," Sophia asked softly, "what might have happened if you hadn't been riding through that canyon that day?" Zane was quiet for a moment, considering. "I believe we would have found each other somehow," he finally said. "Some souls are meant to connect, no matter what stands in their way. Even 5 outlaws," she teased. "Even 100, he replied with conviction. "Nothing could have kept me from you once fate put you in my path." As stars appeared overhead, they shared one more kiss beneath the vast Nevada sky, 2 people who had begun as strangers in danger and become partners in every sense of the word. Their story, which had started with a chase and a confrontation, had evolved into one of the greatest adventures either could have imagined. A lifetime shared, a legacy created, a love that had endured through decades of change. And in the quiet of that perfect moment, Sophia knew with absolute certainty that Zane had been right. Their souls had been destined to find each other, to journey together through whatever canyon's life presented. What had begun with 5 outlaws and a brave declaration had become the foundation of a family, a cornerstone of a community, and a love story that would be retold for generations to come. "I would choose you again," she whispered against his lips, "in any life, in any time." "As I would choose you," he answered, "always." Together they turned toward their home, toward the light and laughter of the family they had created, hand in hand as they had been since that fateful day when a deputy had stood between a frightened woman and danger, with nothing but courage and a promise. "You'll have to go through me." It had been enough then. It had been everything since. And as they rejoined their family, their legacy of love continued to unfold a story without end, passed from generation to generation, a testament to the power of one brave stand in a canyon and the lifetime of devotion that had followed.